The world of Runeterra might be one of the most fascinating and intricate fantasy settings in modern gaming. While League of Legends is commonly associated with its wildly popular competitive scene, Riot Games have been taking great strides in recent years to flesh out their world and the characters that reside within, even going so far as to reboot the entire story in 2015. While this push for a deeper narrative has been widely appreciated by the game's lore community, the results have been controversial at times. With a retcon world came the need to retcon characters. Riot has made a substantial effort in the last few years to reimagine the backstories of League's iconic champions to fit them into the new lore, but not every change has been met with positive feedback. Let's face it, no writer is perfect and hindsight is 2020, so a number of characters throughout the years have been left with less than stellar backstories compared to most of the roster. Still, it is my firm belief that criticism should always be supplemented with suggestions and feedback for improvement, which is what we're here to discuss today. Hello and welcome to Runeterra Rewrites, a series in which I'll be offering my own takes on League's most controversial stories and champions. My aim is simple: to propose alternative versions of these stories that better match the characters' themes and concepts, without needing to alter anything regarding their in-game designs or voice lines. With all that being said, please sit back, relax, and let us begin, shall we? Deep within the Kamungu jungles, the remnants of an ancient civilization lie buried beneath a dormant volcano. These ruins now serve as the lair of Yvva, a mighty fire drake once revered as the land's protector. It is said that in exchange for their piety, Yvva offered samples of her own elemental blood to her most devout followers, transforming them into burning half-dragons. For many years, the people of the land prospered under Yvva's watchful gaze. Then, without warning, their protector turned on them, killing the half-dragons and reducing the civilization to ash. Centuries later, the ruins of that place were deemed forbidden, as all who dared to trespass were killed by Yvva's fire. Even so, tales of the ancient civilization endured, drawing thieves and scholars alike to plunder its depths for riches and knowledge. Time and again, those who entered the forbidden ruins never returned. Until, that is, one crafty adventurer by the name of Edward Ganza narrowly escaped the dragon's lair with a peculiar crystal egg in tow. Using a magical pendant that masked his presence, Edward fled through the jungle as Yvva's fires raged behind him, narrowly evading the dragon's fury. Finally, the adventurer managed to escape the jungle and sail back to Piltover with the egg in his grasp. After arriving in the safety of his home, Edward planned to sell the egg for an exorbitant price. But before he could find a buyer, something truly unexpected happened. The egg hatched, and what emerged from it was not a dragon, but a horned child covered in purple scales. Though shocked, Edward soon developed a peculiar fondness for this strange child. Unable to sell her off as originally planned, the adventurer instead took it upon himself to raise the girl, naming her Shyvana after the dragon he believed to be the girl's mother. For a time, the two lived in the isolated mountains near Knockmerch, where Edward taught Shyvana all he could of human values and customs. It quickly became apparent that Shyvana was no mere mortal, as she was able to harness the power of primal fire from an early age. For years, Edward worked with Shyvana to help keep her flames under control, yet Shyvana could feel her power growing stronger with time. Unbeknownst to either of them, these flames served as a beacon, calling out to the child's mother across the world. It didn't take long for Yvva to follow this beacon to its source, and when she beheld the adventurer and the half-breed taken from her lair, Yvva did not hesitate to unleash her own fire upon them both. In an act of desperation, Edward gave his life to help Shyvana escape, telling her to flee to the Silent Forest in Demacia. Reluctantly, Shyvana did as her father asked, escaping to the safety of the Demacian countryside to hide amidst the towering petricite trees. Just as Edward suspected, the forest helped to mask Shyvana's presence from her wrathful mother, but not completely. In a desperate bid to find her half-breed daughter, Yvva took to ravaging the Demacian countryside, burning fields and farms and devouring livestock as she searched. All the while, Shyvana remained isolated in the woods, eking out a lonely existence in her father's absence. More than once, Shyvana considered fleeing to a nearby town or city, but she knew that doing so would guarantee her discovery. Years passed in solitude until Shyvana came upon a stranger in charred armor, clutching the remnants of a broken banner. The stranger was collapsed on the ground and looked to be on the verge of death, a sight that reminded Shyvana all too well of her now-deceased father. For the first time in years, Shyvana dared to leave the Silent Forest, bringing the stranger to a nearby town of Rinwall. Though the people were initially horrified by her appearance, they nonetheless welcomed Shyvana into their town when they saw who she was carrying. Shyvana learned, to her shock, that the man she'd saved was none other than Jarvan IV, the crown prince of Demacia. The young prince had gone missing after leading a band of soldiers to bring down the dragon terrorizing the Demacian countryside. And for saving him, Shyvana was granted a place of refuge in Rinwall. Though Shyvana initially welcomed the presence of other people, she knew it was not to last. The winds carried the scent of ash, confirming Shyvana's worst fears. Yvva was coming for her. Shyvana prepared to flee back to the Silent Forest, but was stopped unexpectedly by Jarvan himself. Even as he prepared Rinwall to defend itself from the dragon's fury, he welcomed Shyvana to stay. Shyvana confessed that the beast in question was her own mother, and that staying would only endanger the people further. Nonetheless, Jarvan was indebted to Shyvana. In exchange for saving his life, he would fight to protect hers. Soon enough, Yvva arrived on wings of primal fire, intent on putting Shyvana down once and for all. Demacian archers loosed arrows of anti-magic steel, yet Yvva tore apart the battlements and burned all who dared to stand in her way. Witnessing the senseless destruction her mother wrought, Shyvana felt the fire within her burn hotter than ever, transforming her into an elemental drake just like her mother. Shyvana took to the skies and confronted Yvva for the first time since she was a child, setting the heavens ablaze in their clash. Even with such a spectacle before him, Prince Jarvan did not falter, rallying his soldiers to come to Shyvana's aid. Together, the prince and the half-dragon fought a long, hard struggle against the ferocious Yvva, until at last the ancient fire drake was brought to the ground. In a final joint strike, Jarvan plunged his spear into Yvva's forehead while Shyvana throttled her mother's throat, avenging her father at last. When the prince returned home, he did so with Shyvana at his side, offering her a place among the knights of Demacia. Shyvana readily accepted, swearing herself to the prince before the royal court despite many nobles' protests. For years, Shyvana has served Jarvan IV faithfully, though recent events have shaken her faith in her former friend. Anti-magic prejudice has left Demacia divided, and many of its citizens look upon Shyvana with fear and disgust. Though she continues to serve in the king's good graces, Shyvana wonders how long it will be until she, too, is deemed just another beast to be slain.